Here are some everyday things that happen in Australia that would never happen in the UK. Now, after living in Australia for over 2 years, after moving from the UK, there's definitely a lot of things which surprise me about life here, and some things which happen in Australia on a regular basis that would not be considered normal at all in the UK. And if they were to happen, it would surprise a lot of people. So we're gonna go into that in today's video. Before we get into it, make sure you give it a like and subscribe. And let's go into some points. So starting off obvious, and that is the wildlife encounters. Some of the wildlife encounters in Australia that happen on a regular basis are crazy. And if they were to ever happen in the UK, I feel like the country would lose its mind. I mean, Australia obviously having some of the most dangerous animals in the world definitely makes animal encounters pretty scary and crazy. During my time in Australia, just day to day, I've seen redback spiders, I've seen brown snakes, lizards, pythons, obviously your usual kangaroos and stuff like that. But bumping into wildlife, whilst it doesn't happen every day, it definitely happens as part of life here in Australia. Most recently, living in Cairns, we literally found a python at the side of the road, like 1 minute from our house. So yeah, the snakes, finding huntsman spiders in your house. I luckily haven't found one yet, but I did see a huntsman the other week and it was absolutely massive. As well as that, the Australian magpies are nothing like the UK magpies, honestly. I don't know what it is with the Australian magpies, but they are so aggressive. They call it swooping season, and for some reason it's a time of the year where the magpies in Australia just go mad and swoop everyone. So the wildlife encounters is definitely something you wouldn't see in the UK, where the craziest creature you're gonna see is like a badger. Point number 2 is schools being closed for things like extreme weather, such as cyclones and heat. This would never ever happen in the UK. In fact, in the UK, the only kind of weather that would close school is like snow. You'd get like a snow day where it would snow overnight and they close the school. That's the only kind of thing like that you'd have. The Australian equivalent of that is like a cyclone day where there's a cyclone and they have to close the school, or extreme heat. That's the Australian equivalent. That would never happen in the UK. Point number 3 is outdoor versions of everything, particularly outdoor gyms and outdoor cinemas, stuff like that. I don't think I've ever seen an outdoor cinema in the UK. If it did happen, it would be very temporary, put up for like one evening or something like that. Obviously in the UK, you cannot count on the weather like you can in Australia. And some of the outdoor things they have, particularly, yeah, like the outdoor cinemas and stuff, are pretty cool. You definitely wouldn't see that in the UK, purely because you would not be able to rely on the weather there. Point number 4 is people walking barefoot everywhere. This is one of the weirdest things about Australian culture when I moved from the UK. Why does everyone walk barefoot everywhere? Even in the shops, shopping centres, even restaurants. Like, put a pair of shoes on, do you know what I mean? If you're in a restaurant. This is something you would never see in the UK. 1, because you probably get frostbite on your feet if you do that. But 2, I think English people would just find it a bit weird if you were to walk around London, for example, barefoot. People would be like, what are you doing? I understand at the beach, but around the shops and restaurants, yeah, it's a bit weird. Point number 5, strangers saying hi and making conversation with you if you see them out for a walk or you're at the bus stop or something. This isn't major in Australia. People aren't overly social, not like I'd imagine Americans to be, but I feel like it's a lot more social than the UK, where I feel like everyone, if you're walking outside, everyone is head down. You might give them a little smirk, a little smile, but no one's really saying hi or making conversation. In Australia, from my experience, it's very common for people to walk down the street, say hi, or if you're just out somewhere, for Aussies to make conversation with you. In the UK, I feel like this is quite rare. We're quite like anti-social in the UK. I've realised that a lot. Point number 6 is in Australia, everyone swears so casually. I don't think you really get this in the UK that much. People do swear, obviously, but in Australia, people just swear in like every sentence. And whilst we do swear in the UK, if you're calling someone a swear word in the UK, it's more insulting. In Australia, people just call each other swear words very casually. Point number 7 is outdoor markets and the whole outdoor market culture. Now there is markets in the UK, but they're not really like touristy markets where people go and get nice food, buy souvenirs, that kind of thing. It's more like street markets, like people buying fruit, veg, that sort of thing. In Australia, there's much more like touristy markets, sunset markets, night markets. People go and they eat food and try different cuisines and buy little souvenirs. From my experience, this isn't really the case in the UK. In fact, I can't think of any sort of touristy markets that I saw in the UK. Just like your town street markets that sell fruit and veg. But in Australia, they have a big culture for like sunset markets and night markets. I think being close to Asia, where that sort of thing is very, very popular. But yeah, this would be a rare sight in the UK. And point number 8 is driving for like 3 hours just to go to the shops or something like that. In the UK, bear in mind you could drive the length of the country in about 5 or 6 hours. Certain places I've worked in Australia, people would drive for like 2-3 hours just to come and visit like a shop, like literally to buy something. That is how massive Australia is. People would live quite remote, and for them to actually buy something specific, they would have to drive like 2-3 hours, and that is considered fairly normal in Australia for people to drive that far. In the UK, 3-hour drive will take you like halfway up the country. You could drive between most cities in the UK in around 3 or 4 hours. So the fact that 2-3 hour drives are so normal in Australia just to go to like a shop is mad. It really shows you how big Australia is. So there is a list of things about Australia that would never happen in the UK. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on this one if you're from the UK or you're from Australia. Yeah, let me know your thoughts. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.